We don't want to suggest that biological families don't matter. We're talking to those who have aches in their heart that don't have that connection. Many people feel guilty that their chosen family feels emotionally healthier than their biological family. Be careful not to shame yourself about having these rich relationships that are actually a gift. It's actually a positive sign of growth, not a failure. You choose these people because they make you feel safe. They make you feel accepted. They choose you back. They claim you and you claim them. That mutual, intentional connection creates a different level of relational quality than relationships that are built out of obligation or tradition.
Have you ever longed to be able to talk about values and morals or faith and spirituality without feeling judged? Hi, and welcome to our podcast, Mindful Moments, Insights to Empower the Soul. This podcast will empower you to embrace your true self.
Hi, I'm Sharilyn Green, and we are marriage and family therapists, and so excited to be here today to talk about something important to our hearts, especially at this time of the year.
I'm Dr. Debi Gilmore, and yes, I too am excited about this topic. It's an interesting term we're going to use. Fictive kin. And every time I've said that in the past, people say, what? Say that again. Fictive kin or chosen family members. It's a healthy way that now let's ask the question, is it healthy to choose family, to handle broken families? Let's just give a little background. Unfortunately, many people grow up without reliable caregivers, and they agonize when they see others in closely bonded families. Numerous studies have been done on loneliness and those who do not have consistency in their family relationships. These studies suggest that healthy, chosen family can help our nervous system experience what safe attachment feels like. That's remarkable. This doesn't erase the past. We want to be careful not to suggest that we're rewriting history, but it can repair your capacity for future connection and avoids the dangers of loneliness, including declining mental and physical health. Sometimes families can become broken or dysfunctional due to multiple generations of addiction, abuse, contentious divorce, incarceration of parents or other family members, or those who grew up in foster care and struggled to find safe and healthy relationships.
Yeah, so the term fictive kin was new to me too, Debbie. You taught me that, but I'm much more familiar with the term chosen family. So chosen family are family-like relationships without blood or legal ties. These have been studied for decades and most heavily in the last 5 to 10 years. So for those of you that are like me that are learning this word, the word fictive kin comes from the term fictional, suggesting not real, imaginary, or made up. However, this term actually describes a bonding, love that word, a bonding or an attachment process that can result in incredible healing. Numerous studies have shown that fictive kin relationships are not merely substitutes for broken family ties. They're actually uniquely beneficial, and they often provide forms of support that biological families cannot or will not be able to provide.
Now, what we don't want to do is to suggest that biological families don't matter. We're talking to those who have aches in their heart that don't have that connection. Are fictive kin or chosen family members a healthy way to handle broken families? Yes. These new voluntary chosen family members can be extremely healthy and, for that matter, fulfilling. Fictive kin can provide healthy factors, and let me list them for you. Emotional healing when family relationships are unsafe or non-existent. It can buffer mental health struggles. Fictive kin or chosen family can definitely reduce loneliness and increase resilience. It also promotes healthy identity growth, learning more about self and view of self. And they offer stable, chosen attachment bonds. But they're healthiest actually when there are very clear boundaries established early in the bonding process of fictive kin. They ideally offer reciprocity from both parties, emotional safety, and no pressure to replace real family unless the person wants that.
So here are some important psychological benefits for those who find themselves in some kind of chosen family relationship. Number one, a chosen family can provide emotional support. The most recent studies on trauma survivors and resilience research finds that when people lack reliable relatives, fictive kin can provide consistent emotional presence. In unhealthy families, sadly, emotional instability is the norm. But with a chosen family, empathetic listening, praise, and encouragement, a family that cultivates a sense of belonging that otherwise might be fleeting or non-existent, can happen. So why does this matter? It matters because people with broken family relationships often carry shame, and they struggle to see their own worth. They consistently feel rejection, which leads to insecurity and emotional wounds that are so difficult to heal later. We know that chronic loneliness and chronic stress cause high levels of damaging cortisol, which attacks our major organs and even shortens our lifespan. So chosen family can buffer these emotional and physical detrimental effects.
As we mentioned earlier, chosen family can reduce loneliness. We're talking about the ideal connections that we build and the accompanying isolation. So what else? We rely on research. We will quote and cite really solid studies, but studies that have been done on emerging adults, those leaving home for college and careers for the first time, or LGBTQ plus individuals or estranged adults, show significant decreases in loneliness and depressive symptoms when they have a supportive network of chosen family. So chosen family members often are more flexible than our biological family members. Unlike blood ties, fictive kin or chosen family are voluntarily chosen. In the initial stages of trust building, there's a natural negotiation process. It's just this adjusting to each other, motivated by a mutual desire to form a more bonded relationship. The relationship is actually based on mutual satisfaction and ideally, like we said, reciprocal. The flexibility that we find in fictive kin or chosen families allows boundaries, expectations, and levels of closeness to be set in healthy ways that dysfunctional families often fail to do.
Yeah, we find that they can offer higher relational qualities. So for those that haven't had family ties that are collaborative and emotionally safe, chosen family members can actually offer these deficits. Several studies find that people report less conflict, more emotional safety, and more dependable support in these fictive kin relationships. Research across family studies, psychology, and sociology consistently show that chosen family relationships often have higher relational quality than family of origin relationships, especially for people who come from conflictual, estranged, or inconsistent families. So because chosen family relationships are voluntary and not obligatory, both parties invest intentionally. People show up with more motivation to maintain connection, and there is often less resentment of forced closeness.
It occurs to me that even those who have healthy family connections also find themselves with what I call a sister friend, someone that is just so special that they do feel like family. So we're not just talking to those who have broken families and have suffered trauma and dysfunction, but this is a phenomenon that happens for many humans. So chosen family offers social and practical benefits. Let's talk a little more about the social and practical benefits. These are voluntary relationships that provide help with childcare. That's awesome when that happens, if it's mutually agreeable. Financial or material support when it's appropriate, transportation, crisis intervention, health-related care. We typically find this type of support in, as the studies have been done on this phenomenon, Black American communities, LGBTQ plus communities, immigrant communities, and low-income families. The key protective factor is that healthy fictive kin relationships are mutual, emotionally safe, and stable, not built on desperation or one-sided need.
Yeah, and there's actually a kind of a cultural continuity and identity to this. In a lot of communities, fictive kin are a long-standing cultural strength, and they serve to reinforce cultural identity. When individuals find themselves in a small minority within a community, they're able to find more shared values and practices of traditions and rituals during holidays. That makes a lot of sense to me. Chosen family can be an important protective factor for trauma or estrangement. So for those that have been in abusive, estranged, or disrupted families, fictive kin often function as a secure attachment figure, and they're able to offer corrective emotional experiences. Where someone may have grown up in a severely dysfunctional family, chosen family can serve as models for healthy boundaries. And most importantly, for those who've experienced trauma or abandonment, chosen family can help reduce the long-term effects of childhood emotional neglect, family conflict, parental absence, and intergenerational trauma. That's a lot of things that can be helpful with.
You know, as I think about the clients that I've worked with who really struggle to trust others because they've been traumatized or abused or neglected in some way, one thing we know about attachment style is when someone who is insecure in their attachment somehow connects with someone who is more secure, they tend to move in that direction of security because they're influenced by the consistency of the other. Now, we're going to talk now about when fictive kin are not healthy. That is when there's over-dependency. But what I'm suggesting is we do see this happen where people can learn to trust because of this new chosen family that just becomes this consistency that they've experienced and feel good about and know how to do and model for that person who has suffered. So when is fictive kin not healthy? Let's list some things to watch for. Not all chosen family relationships are automatically healthy. There are risks that might include over-functioning or rescuer dynamics. There may be a temptation to offer too much help, so much help that the one in dysfunction becomes enabled to remain helpless. We call that learned helplessness. This can foster unhealthy dependence that replaces all other support systems. The newfound family may be innocently replicating unhealthy patterns that were rampant in the biological family that was dysfunctional. Blurred boundaries or even exploitation may occur. So what are the guidelines? Let's talk about those.
Yeah, so first of all, it's important to normalize and validate the role of fictive kin. A lot of people feel guilt or shame for leaning on people who really aren't family. So it's important to reframe what's actually happening. The following statements can reinforce the importance of forming healthy family relationships, even if the family members are chosen. Things like family is identified by behavior, not biology. Closeness is built through safety and consistency, not genetics. And choosing family is a form of resilience, not a failure. So ultimately, it's important to walk away from any kind of internalized guilt and affirm that a chosen family, when it's healthy, can be a wonderful adaptation, not avoidance.
And I'm going to add they're a gift. It is a gift in the midst of that, history of turmoil. We also want to make sure that we acknowledge the function of these relationships. So try to understand the purpose of your chosen family bonds that they offer you. Here's some things that you might ask. What do I receive from this relationship that I didn't get growing up? What feels safest or most supportive about this chosen family member? How is this relationship similar or different from my relationships with my biological family? These questions increase our insight and help identify whether the relationship is compensatory, corrective, or potentially recreating past patterns. As the new relationships are forming, proactively assess health versus dependency. Chosen family is protective only when the relationship is mutual and boundaried.
identify any red flags that come up. For example, if you're starting to feel obligated to give more than you can afford to give, this is a sure sign of an imbalance, whether that be emotional resources or temporal resources. It's not just financial resources. And when that happens, seek clarification and talk openly about these kinds of red flags. And so always be aware of that. If you've lived a life of neglect from loved ones, be so careful not to slip into fear of abandonment, which can drive you into people-pleasing patterns. And what if you feel yourself becoming overly dependent on one person for all your emotional regulation? This is another really important red flag that can go both ways, where both parties believe that they can't function without the other. And that can develop into a syndrome we've already talked about of learned helplessness.
So, what are healthy relational markers? What are the positive, the healthy things that you can look for? Reciprocity, meaning equal sharing, equal giving, investment from both sides. Emotional safety. Is it safe for you to reach to that person for comfort or reassurance? And when you ask for that, are they available? And can you offer that as well? Is there repair after conflict? Are they willing to revisit something that might have been tense or painful and seek for that healing? And respect for the boundaries that have been set. So let's talk about healthy boundaries. Place your focus on setting and maintaining healthy, clear boundaries. Boundaries protect the relationship. Fictive kin relationships often begin informally. So boundaries help them stay healthy. When you start to notice that you're becoming more bonded, realize and recognize, okay, one stage that we need to go to is to set expectations. Notice if your chosen family becomes overly dependent on you. This is why setting clear boundaries and expectations early is essential. Another form of this role confusion, for example, treating a friend like a parent or child, or your fictive kin treating you this way. And that's hard to recognize until you're way down the road. And so you have to say, no, wait, do I feel like a friend on equal level, or am I one man down or one man up? So for clarity, communicate openly and clearly about your feelings, your needs, your desires. Now, this is an ideal. We don't always all do this easily, but to intentionally say, I need to be more open with my feelings. When I feel hurt, I need to talk about it in a way that's not threatening or attacking, but sharing what my feelings are, needs, desires, and opening the door for them to do it as well. During the holiday season, discuss and negotiate expectations. This is especially important. Early on, establish agreements around money, childcare, or shared commitments. It's a myth to think that boundaries harm relationships or close them off. No. Instead of destroying relationships, boundaries protect them. If you follow these simple steps, you will ultimately protect the relationship without suffocating it.
Yeah, so to do that, think about broadening and expanding your social network. While chosen family, as we've talked about, is healthy, it's still so important to continue to reach outside of your chosen family network. You know, many people with broken families funnel all of their unmet needs into one chosen family relationship. Most families end up with only one or two best friends in a lifetime. However, it's ideal to have 2 to 3 sources of emotional support with a mix of peers, mentors, community members, including a faith community. Often in these communities that worship together, they naturally become a form of family and the feelings of shared values and togetherness. So it's important to have at least one support system outside of the chosen family circle that reduces the strain on just one system. And these steps reduce the risk of over-dependency and increase relational security.
So now we've come to a place, I think it's important that we remember to work to process family of origin wounds separately from your chosen family or fictive kin. Fictive kin can complement your healing, but they can't replace the deep work. So rather than relying on your chosen family to help you process past trauma and deep emotional wounds, It's important to seek a therapist who is oriented and trained in systemic family therapy and trauma clearing, because your chosen family is not trained in doing that. Let's share some ideas of key aspects of the therapy treatment process. It's really interesting to look at the difference between chosen family support and therapeutic treatment. A therapist will help you explore grief and loss. They'll help you identify and name the injuries and unmet needs, or maybe disowned needs. They'll help you address attachment hurts and injuries. Those are two different things. Attachment hurts are the small little things that happen over time. Injuries are those traumatic events that cause a deep wound and maybe even a block toward progress and growth personally. And they'll help you work on reparenting and regulation skills. The ultimate goal of treatment in therapy is to avoid displacement of unresolved trauma onto chosen family relationships.
Another blessing or benefit of fictive kin is it cultivates inside of you personal empowerment. It's just one of the greatest benefits of this process, as cultivating kind of a resilience and personal agency in creating a chosen family. And it's this process of empowerment for those who have not experienced healthy family relationships. Such a process for that. Creating chosen families shows your capacity to build healthy connection. It is a process of healing, not avoidance or running away. So chosen family allows people to kind of co-create roles, expectations, boundaries, communication patterns, and emotional norms. This entire process fuels higher self-worth and personal growth.
As I think about this, if you are listening and you have relationships like this in your life, it might be helpful for both of you to sit and listen to this podcast together and take notes. Notice the things that might be useful to you so that you can empower the relationship. Here's a checklist, what we call the Healthy Chosen Family Checklist. Things that you can use to assess the chosen family relationship to see if it's healthy and will contribute to reciprocal well-being and fulfillment. Question: do I feel safe being myself in this relationship? Is the support mutual and reciprocal? Do we understand and respect each other's boundaries? And is there consistency without undue pressure?
Can we swiftly repair when tension or conflict arises? Am I responsible for each other's emotional stability, or is there a balance in our personal processing of emotions? Can I say no without fear of punishment or ultimatums? So in the early process of selecting chosen family or fictive kin, it's so important to clearly outline what it is that you're looking for. And the following questions can assist in this important clarification process. For example, what role do I want this person to play in my life? What a great question. How can we express appreciation without over-committing? The balance of that. What boundaries would help this relationship stay emotionally safe? And in what ways am I afraid of repeating old patterns? These kinds of questions can deepen your insight and support a healthier relational template.
So this is an abundance of information.
It is a lot.
Yeah, let's just kind of review and just put a bow on what we have shared with you. Many people feel surprised or even guilty that their chosen family feels emotionally healthier than their biological family. Be careful not to shame yourself about having these rich relationships that are actually a gift in our human experience. There are clear reasons this happens, and it's actually a positive sign of growth, not a failure. You choose these people because they make you feel safe. They make you feel accepted, a sense of belonging. You feel supported and understood. They choose you back. I love that. You feel this, they claim you, and you claim them in a really beautiful way. That mutual, intentional connection creates a different level of relational quality than relationships that are built out of obligation or tradition. Therefore, what?
I've learned a lot from this today. I think it's reframed some things for me. My therefore what is to go forward in life with just a different perspective on this, the benefits, the value of it, maybe some of the things to watch for. As you were talking, in my family of origin, there were people that became part of our family for a while, and I see the benefit of that. In my own family with my husband and kids, we've had people live with us, and it's just been a beautiful time to reflect on the blessings of this when it's done well. So my therefore what is to go forward with a greater understanding and appreciation for the place of this in our lives and how we can bless each other in these ways.
Thank you for sharing that and reflecting on relationships in my world that are not blood relatives. And one in particular I'm thinking of, I remember when we met each other, and this particular person had a significant loss. And I was drawn to her to just be by her side and walk with her while she healed from this tremendous loss. And then several years later, she ended up being by my side through a tumultuous time. And my therefore what is to reach out to that person and others in my world that have served as chosen family, fictive kin, that have enriched my world and made me a better human, a better therapist, and my well-being has increased because they are a part of my life. I'm going to reach out and say thank you. And thank you so much for listening today. We hope you'll continue to join us and spread the news that we are here. Send us topics of interest. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.